All right, lads, welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball, episode 69. Shane, I'm sure you're delighted to be back for that. Couldn't miss it for the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. It's not as bad as you pretend you were going to do the 6-7 the last time I was here. So I think 6-9 has been replaced as the more cringy thing by 6-7 now. So we're actually adults. We can move on. I mentioned it at one point in the episode, and you do have a wry smile across your face. I saw. So I think that was the only time it was mentioned the whole way through.
I saw you saying it, and I was like, he's not never mentioned like the number of episodes too often. So I was like, this is clearly an attempt to get a smile out of me. Look, yeah, we've got some disappointing stuff to touch on, obviously, with Ireland crashing out. But I will have a positive note that I was in Croke Park on Saturday evening, and Carlow got a Division Four league win. They fought hard, very hard. It was a draw at the end of the first half, draw at the end of full time, draw at the end of the first half of extra time, and then they pulled it out of the bag in the second half, got the win. I thought they were the better team. First time winning in Croke Park since 1970. First bit of
Wow.
silverware in a league or championship outside of a B championship in the 1990s since 1944. So a really massive day for the county and some positive look ahead to the future. So yeah, that was a great day out and really enjoyable and kind of lessened the sour note of Ireland losing a couple of nights prior. So that was a nice one. But you're under the weather after your trip to Prague. Caught another bug on the plane.
Yeah, I actually genuinely think I need to start wearing masks on planes because when I came back from Hungary, it was the worst flu I've ever had in my whole entire life. And this one isn't as bad, thankfully, but I'm just so sick of being sick at this point. I can't remember the last time I come on this episode and I actually sounded like my normal voice. It feels like I've just been on a constant run of flus or bugs every single time. But we battled on and it's a good one. It was a long episode, but it's another good one, well worth listening to the end for my confusion.
Yeah, like I mentioned at the end of the episode, is the Shane Fleming flu game, like Michael Jordan pulling it out in the bag when it matters the most. So yeah, it went the full distance. So we covered a lot in the episode. We started off talking about Ireland. Obviously it was disappointing, but we did talk about some things for the future. But also the effects of the loss and how it all panned out. We gave a preview of the FA Cup quarterfinals and picked our winners for that. Then we moved on to the NFL and we redrafted last year's 2025 draft, the top 10, who we would have picked in each of those positions. Since it is coming up to draft season, it only felt right. Then we moved on to Gonchance, gave our picks, hoping for a better weekend this time around. And then we moved over to the NBA, talked about does the fact that the whole scandal came out about Katie's burner and stuff, does that still linger on the mind of the Rockets players and does that hang around the dressing room because they've been quite poor since then? Very inconsistent. And then we talked about the East playing and how it's kind of a bit of a mess, and we tried to make sense of it and who's going to end up where. And that some confusion came in at that point. So, yeah, bear with us. And then at the end, we wrapped up with our power rankings as usual. So, won't keep you any longer. It's a long episode, but a very good one, if I do say so myself. So, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so let's start with something we really didn't want to have to talk about, but it's it's only right we would have talked about it if we qualified for the World Cup, so we have to talk about it. The fact that we missed out. As you know, Shane was not in the episode last week over in Prague. Looked like great crack regardless of the result, but yeah, heartbreaking fashion how we lost. So obviously, I presume everyone will know the manner in which Ireland lost the game, which is not a nice one ever to lose on penalties, especially when you should have had the game wrapped up in the 90 minutes. I just think the main thing everyone will think about is that Manning tackle, and I think that'll stay in the back of the mind for years to come because without that, we might be having a completely different conversation right now.
Yeah, I think as well the way Alan Brown gives away the free kick that leads to the equaliser is really, really silly as well. It's just like there's no need to push him over there in the corner. And I know it's probably just a rush of blood or whatever, but the Manning one is just the ball is going out of play. Just leave him alone. Like you don't need to put your hands on him there. It's just it was so frustrating. And it's one of those I think if we last 10 or 15 minutes after we go 2-0 up without conceding, I think their heads would have just completely gone. And I think we would have probably just walked it home then. But the fact we just gave them such an easy way back into the game for absolutely no reason is just so frustrating. And after that, then like they had five or six lads who are 6'3" or 4" on the pitch, and it's the smallest centre half that wins the header to get the equaliser as well. There's something that's kind of sickening my throat a bit as well. But yeah, like once they got 2-0 up, I really thought they were I really thought they were home and hosed. And I know that's silly. There was a half an hour gone. There's so long left, but they were just so comfortably the better team in that opening half an hour. And up until the penalty, they were the better team. They were playing really good football, going long when they needed to go long, keeping it short when the ball was there to be played. I thought Ogbene was playing really, really well. He was running their fullback ragged, and then once the penalty was given away, it just went to complete and utter long ball, non-stop, just pumping it forward over and over again. It was just really, really frustrating to watch then, and then to lose it on penalties is just it's horrific.
Yeah, I think it was one of the main points that both of us made that we would win the game if we didn't pump the ball along every time we got it, which we started off the game by not doing that, as you said, unless it was in a moment where there was actually being a run made. It wasn't just lumping it up for no reason. And
Yeah,
then the whole rest of the game, after they scored that penalty, was just pumping it up to Ogbene every time. And he was trying his best, but obviously that's not his strongest suit. So I don't think that that was smart. And I think Coleman was very frustrated after the game. He mentioned that we could have played the ball more in his interview, and I think he was right because I saw a number of times he was calling for that from Collins and O'Brien, and they were just booting it forward like every single game, every time they got the ball, and even in the Macedonia friendly last night it'll be a few nights ago by the time you're listening to this, but when O'Brien came on, his first inkling was to just boot the ball forward. And I was
yeah,
thinking, like, it's a friendly now, and we want to play some football here. And you're going back to doing what basically got us knocked out. Now, it's not his fault fully because he plays well in other aspects, but it's incredibly frustrating when he gets the ball. His first thought is just boot it up the field. And I just couldn't stick watching that because it seemed like when you're watching it on TV that every time we won a free or got a kick out, they were showed the replay of how it got there, and then when it flicked back on, we didn't have the ball anymore because we had just booted it
yeah.
back to them. So we're inviting that pressure that we didn't need to invite, and the Brown one is frustrating because Brady had actually won the ball and he probably would have got a free for himself if Brown didn't do that. And Brown was absolutely abysmal when he came on. And I don't know in what world should he have taken a penalty, especially the fifth one. I'm questioning as to why Collins, as the captain, didn't step up there and take one, regardless of being a centre back. Like you saw, their centre back took one. Harry Maguire, as one of the best penalty takers I've seen, doesn't matter your position. It's about having the confidence to do it. And Heimer saying we didn't practice them before the game, and then saying it again after, doubling down on that. It just looks ridiculous at the end of everything because how could we have not have practiced something? And how can our heads go that much that when something like the Manning penalty, yeah, okay, that was stupid. He wasn't looking at the ball, rush of blood to the head, whatever. We're still 2-1 up. We could have easily continued in the game to play the way we wanted to if we made the right subs. But he didn't want to make the subs. He dragged on and on and on. I know Ogbene did an amazing job, but he was out on his feet after 70
Yeah.
minutes. And it was unfair to ask him to keep. He's lucky he didn't pull a hamstring or something. And for Jason Knight not to see a minute when he's our only centre mid with Cullen out that can actually receive the ball on the turn and help us get out when we're stuck in at the back. I couldn't believe that he didn't bring him on because the only player
I,
on the field that was getting us out against Macedonia, again, I know as a friendly, was Knight. And we didn't
mm.
have that all game against the Czechs. And that was a real questionable decision by Heimer. So I have a lot of question marks around the way he managed the game.
Yeah, bringing on Alan Brown in that moment instead of Jason Knight, as you said, made no sense to me. And I know Brown has been in great form recently for Preston. It is Preston that he's playing with, and he
Middlesbrough.
was championship player of the he was championship Middlesbrough, sorry, and he was championship player of the month last month or the month before, and he's in a really good moment, but that wasn't the time to bring him on. He wasn't the kind of footballer we needed then. And obviously, like I presume he brought on Tommy Smolix to take a penalty and then he goes off. But as you said, like I'd rather have seen Queven Kelleher stepping up to take that fifth penalty rather than Alan Brown. I'm not even saying that joking. Like the way he dispatched his penalty for Liverpool against Chelsea in that Carabao Cup final was a man who's well able to kick a ball and put it where he wants to put it. Like I'm never going to like beat these lads up for stepping up and missing a penalty because they are like they're trying. but it's the way they run up to it is what really annoys me. The way all the Czechs just put their foot through it instead of like waiting for the keeper to move and roll it the other side. They all just went up and smashed it into the back of the net. Patrick Schick can do the stop and jump penalty, but he's still absolutely blasted by the time he gets to it. Our last two penalties, and after scoring our first three as well, makes it even more frustrating. But
Yeah.
our last two penalties were just both of them tippy tappy straight, just pass backs to the goalkeeper, and that's what I find frustrating. If they tried to go for it and the keeper makes an unbelievable save, fair enough. That keeper had saved one penalty in his whole career before the Ireland game. And it was in when he was playing in the third division of Czechia football. He'd never saved a penalty in a top division game. And we just gave him two of the easiest saves of all time. I thought I thought Trey Parrott obviously really, really good. I also thought Darragh O'Shea was excellent in
Oh,
Czechia.
super.
He seemed like the only one of the three centre backs who was trying to play ball the whole way through, and he was just being let down by the two beside him. Nathan Collins seems to have a bit of a block when he plays for Ireland because he's twice the player when he's at Brentford, and we've said this now probably since episode 1, and we're now on episode 69. Every time we talk about Ireland or Brentford, that they are like two different players. And who was the other one? Jack
O'Brien.
Taylor. Jack Taylor going off
Oh, yeah.
killed the tempo when he went off. It really killed the tempo. And I understand he had to go off, but again, bringing on Alan Brown for him wasn't the right decision. It should have been Jason Knight that come on for him. And then last night, there's not really a whole lot to say about last night. If we were still playing now, Troy Power would have hit the post another 14 times. It was just never going to go in the net for him last night.
Yeah.
It was just one of those games where they were just breaking it up so much. They weren't going down for throw-ins and free kicks. They were taking. It seemed like they made more than 11 subs with the amount of subs they made in that second half. It was to break it up constantly over and over again. And then Czechia going to the World Cup just kind of, it's even more sickening because they were so bad in both games and now they're in the World Cup. It's just like when your luck is in, as you said last night.
Yeah. I think the penalty point you make is a great one because if you're not confident, just smash it. Don't try and place it. And again, I'm the same as you. I never even mentioned his as because he stepped up and he had to take it. The reason I mentioned Brown is because he has a bad history of penalties for Ireland and he played badly when he came on. So it doesn't make sense. But again, he
Yeah, like
obviously
I don't think
offered.
Filizaz played badly in the game.
No, he didn't.
Like he didn't do anything wrong really. He didn't light it up, and I thought he was absolutely brilliant last night against North Macedonia. These little balls through to Troy Parrott, he was playing really well. Like when he was stepping up, I was like, this is a man who was scoring goals for Southampton, left, right, and centre. It's free kicks, everything. I was like, he surely has the technique to
Yeah,
just bury it. And
just nerves.
uh, yeah, and that they had just missed theirs beforehand, so it would have put us 4-2 up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we went first. It would have put us 4-2 up, and to miss that just gave them all the momentum then. And I just knew they weren't going to miss either of their last two after we missed ours. And obviously, then it came down to Alan Brown, and he also did the same thing as his ass then.
Yeah, I think that the like after the game, I just literally sat in silence, like looking at the screen for like half an hour because I was just like, "What? How have we messed this up?" And then the next morning, I was still disappointed, but I was like, actually, you know what? Like the fact that we had the moments in Hungary and Portugal game, like those have given us hope, and we have so many young players that it's so positive for the future. But
Mhm.
then after that Macedonia game last night, and then you see Denmark crashing out when it felt like we were the better team over Czech Republic. And then you see the likes of Sweden going through who didn't win a single group
Oh,
game. And then you see Bosnia going through against Italy on penalties. It's like
and that they
we
should have lost to Wales.
we just should have been there. Like it was a
Yeah.
great opportunity, and I think that last night didn't help. I think the days in between, I could have dealt with it if Denmark came out and battered Czechia. I would have felt a lot better, but they didn't, and it makes it a little bit tougher. So I think out of those points, I think the game last night, at least Bosun Lawal coming on was a great moment because he played very well. He constantly wanted the ball. He was winning the ball back, getting stuck in. He's the exact midfielder we need next to someone who can pass the ball. So I would like to see him and Knight play together maybe in the next friendly. But as long as Liam Scales never plays left wing back again, I actually don't know if the lads behind me just were Celtic fans and incredibly biased, or they just never watched football before in their lives because one of them goes at one stage, Scales made a run after like 70 minutes and he goes like, oh, Scales was there available, and then the other lad goes like, oh yeah, like he's after having some game, and I was like, I'm actually going to like gouge my eyes out if I think this is serious. I was like, maybe they're just like taking the piss. Then the man in the match gets announced as Parrot. The guy goes, "Jeez, I don't know how it wasn't Scales," and I was like, "Oh my god, get me out of here!" 0-0. Felt like it dragged on for like 6 hours, and then I have to listen to this
Yeah,
as well.
I couldn't believe the referee had it on 7 minutes to just to drag out the torture. Like it's a friendly. I know there was 22 substitutions made, but there's absolutely no need to add on the 7 minutes,
Yeah.
especially now after adding. You didn't add a second on in the first half
Oh,
either, and there was goals ruled out and stuff. I was like, how have you done this to him? The thing about Bosun Lawal is that he was kind of like what I thought about him last night watching him was he's like the next coming of Josh Cullen for us, only he might be more talented. He was the kind of player that should have been in the squad for the Czechia game that you could have brought on to keep put your foot on the ball, get it down, play it out, keep it going around. And I know it would have been a very big ask to throw him on for his debut in Czechia when it's after getting to 2-2 and we're going into extra time, but he seemed like the kind of person who should have at least been in the squad now looking back on it, if you agree with that or not.
yeah. Yeah, I do. I do. I think his physicality as well is important because he has some of the. I think he has a better passing range at that age than Cullen did, and he
Yeah,
also has a
100%.
lot more physicality than Cullen does. So I think, and he looks forward a bit more. So I think he would be a decent option even if Cullen comes back. The two of them together, I'd like to see. It's just something we need because that's one of our weakest points. I also do think that our right wing back position, if Coleman retires, is going to be very weak because I know we have Manning can play left wing back. He does a fine job there, no issues with that. But we can't rely on Jake O'Brien to be playing right wing back because he just can't play there. And we like it's you can't play a centre back. You can play a centre back full back, but not wing back because then they have to
Yeah,
make these runs. Scales tried a few of them last night. He just didn't have the pace. Like I'm not saying any of the stuff about him that he's a bad player. He's just not a left wing back. Essentially, you're asking him to play a left winger. Like it doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what we're gonna do with the right wing back spot if Coleman retires and we persist with this five at the back. It could be a thing where I wouldn't even mind seeing Jason Knight play right wing back
it
if
could be
Cullen
a
is in
Banqua
midfield.
or it could be Chidozie Ogbene as well. Might have to drop
True.
back there.
Yeah, one up. And that's another thing I thought about. If Ogbene, continues to get older and injuries continue to hurt him, we do need another option with pace because his outlet of pace is so important to the team right now.
Yeah,
So maybe Harvey
100%.
Vale can be that. But
Yeah.
it's going to be a long few months before we have meaningful football again in the Euro qualifiers. So, just to wrap this, the draw is on the 6th of December in Belfast to find out what the groups are. And then they'll begin the following year. Depends on if we're in a group of five or four, how many, when that starts. I think it starts in either March or June. So you have to
March, I think.
win one, but if you're in a group of less, you have to start in June, not March. So it just depends on
Okay.
our group size. So you have to win one of the groups or be a top eight runner up. If we miss on both of those and England and Scotland qualify, then we're in anyway because we're a host. But I really hope it doesn't come down to that because that would be
Yeah,
fairly
a
disheartening to not
sickening way to
qualify.
win. Yeah.
So let's hope we get in there. So that's the next thing after the Nations League, which will be hopefully some positives to get some young players some minutes in the future. But a lot of things to look forward to, but definitely disappointment. So we'll move back into domestic football because that's what's coming up this weekend. We've got some FA Cup, no Premier League. That's back the following weekend. So we're going to give a quick look at the four quarterfinals in the FA Cup and give our picks to get into the next round. So we've got Man City versus Liverpool, Chelsea, Port Vale, Southampton, Arsenal, and West Ham versus Leeds. An interesting note is that Port Vale, they're in League One. They're the lowest ranked team remaining in the draw, and that means they're. If you look at the history, they're the lowest ranked team featured at this point in the competition since 1953-54. So
Well,
it's very interesting with them to get this far. So what do you think? Where do you think these games are going to go? We'll start with City and Liverpool.
first of all, I think these four games are so unwatchable outside of Liverpool and Man City, really. Like, who's going to sit down and watch Southampton Arsenal? It's going to be one team hoofing it to the other. Port Vale are unfortunately probably going to get absolutely walked off the park by a poor Chelsea team. And then obviously West Ham and Leeds is just two poor Premier League teams. So I think the draw hasn't done the cup much favours. But Liverpool City is obviously, hopefully, will be a good game. I am back in Liverpool here. There's no way we're losing the City three times in a season. We haven't done that in a long, long time. I don't see why we're going to start now. I know they just won the Carabao Cup, but we said a couple of weeks ago that I think they are still a very, they're not average, they're above average, but they're not a great football team. Despite all the money they spent, you could say what's saying about Liverpool, all the money they spent in the summer, and they don't look a very good football team at the moment. But I am going to back Liverpool. Liverpool are going to need this more than Man City do, because Man City are still going for that title. Liverpool literally have this and a really tough Champions League to play for, so they're going to want this trophy. So I am backing Liverpool here to go through.
Okay, I take your point on the fact that Liverpool will want it a lot, but I also do think that City are basically out of the Premier League, and though Pep will never admit that, he knows that it's unlikely. And if they had the chance to do a domestic double, I think that that would at least make them feel better about their season. Like, I just think that if they could take down Arsenal in both cups, it would be kind of a bragging rights thing, even though if Arsenal did win the league. I do think it will be a close game. I think that Liverpool played really well against City for the majority of the game recently when City came back and won 2-1, but then they threw it away late. But I just think that the fact that City are at home and they've had, obviously both teams are coming off an international break. I think they're on an even playing field at that point of view. I just don't know how City lose after coming off the high of the cup win and Liverpool's low of how they played in their last Premier League game. I know there could be a bounce back there, but I don't know. I don't can't see past City right now. Even though I wouldn't really like to see them doing any type of a double in a season that they're
Yeah,
supposed to be playing quite poorly in. But yeah, I just think that City have the upper hand, and I'm kind of annoyed that this is 12:45 on a Saturday. This would be the
yeah, I
perfect
know.
evening game or a Sunday afternoon game. Like, what kind of timing is that? The best game is on the worst time.
Yeah. And there was like we all the early kickoffs in the Premier League all season have been pretty drab affairs as well. This one is going to be tactical. It's going to be cagey. I do think whoever scores first is the one that will go on to win it. So just have to hope Liverpool can come out of the box blocks firing. What was Liverpool's last Premier League game?
The Brighton loss.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Let's move on to Chelsea and Port Vale.
Yeah, because everyone was very annoyed after that one. Actually, I was going down to get the Lewis and go into the city and walk by the barbers, and my barber was there, and he was just finishing up for the day, like, and I saw him, so he came out to me for a second, and we had spoke recently about Liverpool, and I said it on the podcast that he was saying, it's so hard to win back-to-back seasons, and he's still positive, and I walked up to him. The first thing he said is, "Scrap all of that stuff I said the last day. They're shit, and I hate them." So I was like, okay, there's definitely emotions are very high after that loss. But yeah, let's move on to Chelsea and Port Vale. I don't think there's any way Port Vale get a win here, but
No.
I think they'll have a great day out, and I think that's the magic of the FA Cup that people talk about. The fact that they could get this far is really, really good for them. But I see them giving a good account of themselves and defending well, and Chelsea maybe eking out a 2-0 win, where Port Vale have a bit of hope at some points because Chelsea are kind of bang average as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. If Port Vale are still in the contest with 10 to go, I think they'll be absolutely delighted. I think I could go the way that Mansfield and Arsenal game went, where it was 1-0 for a long time. Mansfield had
Yes.
a couple of chances, and then Eze just belted in one from 20 yards, and that was that. It could go that way again, I think, something very similar. Let's just wait and see. But yeah, I do think Chelsea will come through, probably 2-0 as well.
Yeah. So next up is Southampton and Arsenal. This is the late game. I mean, this would be amazing to see something of an upset here. We'll be watching Finn Azaz. Hopefully,
Ryan
he
Manning.
can redeem himself. Yeah, Ryan Manning as well. Two lads that not the best of moments in an Ireland shirt, but we'll still get behind them and hope that they can give Arsenal a good rattle here on Saturday night.
Yeah, yeah, this is the one. I'd rather Southampton win than Liverpool at this stage, just to take some more bubble out of that Arsenal balloon or whatever that saying is. I just don't see it though. I just Southampton haven't been on the best of runs, haven't had a great season. I know they've come back a good bit since getting rid of Will Still, the man, the myth, the legend. But I just think that Arsenal will just have too much here. I think the quality they have, even when they don't show it all the time, will just be too much for Southampton. I think you'll be 2-1 to Arsenal.
Okay, I'm not sure what's the situation with the Arsenal injuries though. I saw that a lot of players
Oh,
pulled
I'm
out.
sure they're all fine.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
I'm pretty
thinking
sure
that
they're all fine.
I didn't see anything too serious about anybody. They just all pulled out of their campaigns. Yeah, I have Arsenal winning 3-0 here. I think they will win
I would actually like to
easily.
apologise to Southampton. They're 4 wins and a draw in their last five. They
Yeah,
are on a good run of
I
form.
was thinking that they've turned it around a lot because they're right
Yeah,
on
they're
the
up to
edge of the
six.
playoffs now, aren't they? Are they in it?
They're in the playoffs. They're
Okay.
level on points with Wrexham ahead on goal difference.
Yeah,
So what? Maybe they will put on a good show. And if they knock out Arsenal, it'd be great to see them go
yeah.
from quadruple to fighting for the league and the Champions League that they won't win.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be good to see Southampton as well back in the semis and hopefully back in the Premier League next season with some Irish players.
Mm.
Lastly, then, Leeds, West Ham, should I say, at home to Leeds. This just has a drab Premier League affair all over at 4:30 on a Sunday. God help us if this was the Super Sunday in the Premier League, nobody be watching
Yeah,
it. Um, this is just going to be stodgy. Two teams that just want to play defensive football.
stodgy football.
Yeah, I think maybe they nick a goal each. I'm going with this one going to penalties, and
Mhm.
I'm having Thomas Soucek's penalty luck finally run out. I want to see him lose a penalty shootout, so I'm having Leeds win on penalties here.
Yeah, I'm going 0-0. But I am also having West Ham. Not West Ham. I'm having Leeds win on penalties as well.
Nice.
Not so much Thomas Soucek to miss, even though I obviously hope he does. I just think Leeds have more. What's the word I'm looking for? More. I'm just going to use dynamic for now. More dynamic footballers that'll be better equipped to putting a penalty away than West Ham. Although West Ham's 4 penalties against Brentford in the last round were outrageous, so surely all their luck has to run out at some point.
Yeah, yeah. I also think it would be like a decent matchup, like to see. I think that's the side of the draw. Then I would be Arsenal and Leeds. I just think Leeds
Is
could.
that done?
I think they're. I think it's a bracket. Yeah. I'm
Oh,
not 100% sure on that, but we'll check in after next week with after the games if I'm right or wrong. But I do believe that's the case. So yeah, that'd be decent to see that. But yeah, let's do a quick fire of our picks. So here are FA Cup quarterfinal picks for this Saturday and Sunday. I'm going with City to beat Liverpool, Chelsea to beat Port Vale, but Port Vale to give a good account of themselves. Arsenal to beat Southampton away from home, and then Leeds to beat West Ham on penalties in a bit of a drab affair.
yeah. So the only one I've different to you is I've Liverpool to beat City. I also have Port Vale doing a really, really good showing at Stamford Bridge, but just running out of quality. Arsenal to scrape past Southampton somehow, and Leeds West Ham 0-0. Nobody watches it. Penalty shootout. Leeds win 4-1 on penalties.
Decent affair.
Mm.
It's a full Denmark job by West Ham on the penalties
Yeah,
there. So
I hope so.
we'll move into the NFL portion of things. So it's kind of running into the season now where we're very close to draft season because we have the NFL owners meeting at the moment and all the head coaches meeting up. So you get some sound bites, but really it's a lot of filler. It's just to tick the box for a lot of the coaches, I think, to kind of get together every year and they discuss whatever issues that they want to bring. The owners do as well about like votes and stuff like that. So it's not really a major talking point, I don't think, really ever, unless there's an interesting vote like the tush push last year, which there isn't this time around. So next up is draft season, which is coming this month. So we're into draft month right now. We're gonna take a look at last year's draft and we're gonna do a redraft. So we're gonna redraft the top 10. We're not looking at teams, so we're not going, oh, the Titans would pick X player because then you're looking at the team's needs. We're doing it in a way that who are the best 10 players, who would have went 1 through 10 after seeing them for a year already. So who would go first overall in a 2025 NFL redraft?
Tatario Macmillan. Offensive rookie of the year, 70 receptions, 1,000 yards, seven receiving touchdowns. The man was just a menace throughout all the season. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And I think if they could go back and redraft, I think they would definitely take him first if they were looking for an offensive player and then look further down the board and get their quarterback then. Sorry, I know we're not doing teams, but if it was the Tennessee Titans, I think they would go back and say, yeah, let's get him and then match him to his quarterback later.
Okay, interesting. Wide receiver first is it's not something that happens
A
often.
bold call. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I've got Macmillan in my top 10, but I've got him ninth.
Ooh.
I've just gone with value. To be honest, I think he did really well. Like 70 catches, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. He did go eighth overall, so I like around where he went. I just have other guys jumping up because of positional value. I've valued like the position like pretty high here, so I'm actually sticking with Cam Ward at first overall. I think the flashes he showed at times were somebody who was had the ability to be picked high. I don't think there was any true number one quarterback, but a quarterback is valued so high that I just think that it's something that it's hard to look past quarterbacks. I think Jackson Dart had a great season, but he missed a lot of games through injury and he has a bit of a rogue style. So even though he is a Giants player and I'd love to put him number one here, I just think that Ward is the safer one. So he was my number one. We'll move on to number two, but before we do that, did you have Ward still in your top 10?
I have Ward at two.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that?
I just dropped him one because, like everything you said, is dead right. The quarterbacks are ranked very, very highly. But I thought on the basis of it, I wasn't. He was never going to drop out of my top three, and it was just kind of around building it around that. I just wanted to put Macmillan first. I thought he was absolutely superb, and then Cam Ward. I thought he had a really good season. Considering the mess he walked into, to finish it with 540 passing attempts, 323 completions, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,100 passing yards, and then, sorry, 159 rushing yards on top of that. I thought he had a really good season in a really poor Titans team. So he was always going to be there or thereabouts for me. I just wanted to just jump Macmillan above him before I kind of sorted out the rest of it then.
Yeah, I think he had a better end to the season too, which is promising
Yeah.
when you improve. Unlike somebody else who I will get to when we talk about the honorable mentions, unless you do have them in your top 10. But I'll go with my two now is Jackson Dart. So I've valued quarterbacks, as it said, pretty highly. I've got five quarterbacks in my top, or three quarterbacks in my top five. So Dart went 25 overall. I think some of the flashes he showed, some of the throws he made were outstanding, and his dual ability, and the way he elevated that Giants team when he came into the fold. It was just electric and something we haven't had for a while as a Giants fan. So I think that number two is where I put him because I think he was the second best quarterback in the draft. Regardless of what Saints fans think, and regardless of how many texts Conan has said to me otherwise. But anyway, we'll leave him number two, because I think he's value for that. So did you have him in your top 10?
He's in my top five. We'll get on to
Okay.
him shortly enough. At third, I have Carson Swess.
Schlesinger.
Yeah, thank you. The linebacker, defensive rookie of the year. I thought what he did in that Browns team was superb. I said early in the season in one of my hot takes early on that the Browns defense could really kind of keep their head above water. It didn't really in the end, but I thought he had an incredible season. 156 tackles, 2.5 sacks, three pass deflections, and two interceptions. Obviously, defensive rookie of the year as well.
Yeah.
I think like the Jets must be looking back and thinking, God, how do we take Membu over this fella? And
Mm.
there's a lot of other teams probably thinking the same thing as well. He was absolutely superb, so I put him in as my three.
Yeah, I have him in my top 10 as well. I have him number eight. I think he went 33. It was very low. I think he's like last year's Sonny Styles. Sonny
Mm.
Styles is seen to be like a top five pick maybe at this point. But last year people didn't really value the linebacker position as much. I thought Jihad Campbell would have went close to top 10. He slipped all the way to the end of the first, and the Eagles picked him up, but Schlesinger completely outdid him. You mentioned how good he was, and to get 20 QB pressures and 2.5 sacks as well was exceptional. So I've got him in my top 10 as well. He's at eight. But my number three is Kelvin Banks. Um, Once again, I've gone for value here because I think left tackles are the most important position on the offensive line. They're the kind of centerpiece to protect your quarterback. And I think the Saints did an exceptional job here. They probably got the best offensive line player in the draft, and they got him at nine. And I have him going three here because I think he was, as I said, the best in the draft available at that position.
Yeah, I don't actually have him in my top 10.
Okay.
Um,
So
I
we'll move
didn't
on to your.
watch enough. Sorry,
No, go ahead.
I
Go
didn't
ahead.
watch enough of that team to be able to make an accurate kind of take on him. He is in my honorable mentions because of everything you said, but I couldn't put him in my top 10 just because I didn't see enough. And I thought the Saints were really, really poor for nearly all of the season as well. So it felt a bit kind of disingenuous if I'd shown him in there, having not watched him all season, just because he was an original top 10 pick. So I just left him out.
Okay. So what have you got at four then?
I have Jackson Dart at 4.
Okay, cool. So what are your thoughts on him?
I thought, looking back now, it was actually a really poor quarterback class. When you look at all the ones that went to the Browns, and none of them are now wanted at the Browns, I think that says a whole lot. And I think Cam Ward and Jackson Dart were head and shoulders above nearly all the rest of them. Spencer Rattler wasn't bad either. But at the end of the day, he really wasn't. But he's not in my top 10. I presume he's going to be the third of your 5 quarterbacks, is he?
Well, it was Tyler Shook. Spencer Rattler
Tyler
was.
Shook,
Yeah.
sorry, Tyler. Yeah, Tyler Shook, sorry, yeah. But yeah. So I thought Jackson Dart was kind of the best of the rest. As you said, he missed a couple of games through injury, but he was still really, really solid, especially in the rushing. 487 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, as well as 15 and 5 TDs and interceptions, and a passer rating of 91.7. In a team that kind of lost nearly every single player at one point in the season, I thought he had a really, really good season. I think the future is so bright for the Giants and for him, and especially.
Yeah, I like to hear that. Obviously, as a Giants fan, if we stick on number four, I've got another player the Giants picked, Abdul Carter. He went third
Mhm.
overall. I have him at fourth. A lot of people were hating on him because of some of the off the field stuff. But if you didn't watch the Giants and you just looked at his sack numbers, you'd be like, oh, he didn't have a great season. He was essential to how good Brian Burns
Mhm.
was. He had the most quick pressures in the league with 48. So that's taken less 2.5 seconds or less to get to the quarterback. He did that 48 times in the season. And that helped Brian Burns on the other side get to the QB as he was flushed out of the pocket. And he had an unbelievable career year. So I think those two together were great. I have him slipping down one because of Banks and the QB value, but yeah, I just have him in here at fourth because I don't think he could drop any further than that. I was really impressed with him at times.
Yeah, so this is actually working out really well because you're going to ask me if I had Abdul Carter in my top 10, and I'm going to say that I had him in fifth.
Oh,
So he's
beautiful.
next up for me. Um, you were just talking about there everything you did, but on top of that, he had 2 forced fumbles, recovered both of them, 4 sacks, and 43 solo tackles as well. He was just superb for, as I said a couple of minutes ago, a Giants team that nearly lost every single player available to them at one point. Like, is it any wonder the coach was sacked when he was dropping him every second play there towards the start of the season? And what he was doing when he was on the field was exceptional then. So, yeah, there was no way he was dropping out of my top 5.
Yeah, just PTSD at this point of thinking back to last year's Shane Bowen led defense. God help us. But we'll move on to number five. As you mentioned, yes, it is Tyler Shook in here for me. A 1-7 record before he started with the team. Those were some Spencer Rattler minutes, although they weren't the worst. They just could not get wins, and then Shook came in and they went 5-4. So not a bad return at all. He was very impressive, made some great throws, and Cunnan is absolutely ecstatic about him. We'll see, considering he is about 26 years of age already. I don't know how much growing room he does have as a young quarterback, but he went 40 and I have him up to five, so I think that's a testament to how well he did.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't hate it. I just, again, it's the same issue I had with not watching the Saints, where I did see him on Red Zone. I thought he looks quality, but I wasn't going to put him into my top 10. I just thought there was better options here,
Yeah.
including my next one, which is Genty. Stays in my
Okay.
top 10. I thought the man was really, really good. 10 touchdowns, 5 rushing, 5 receiving. 346 reception yards off 55 receptions for a man who's about 4'10", I think is impressive enough. But what he did on the ground then as well, 25 yards short of 1,000 yards, 975, and 5 rushing touchdowns. I think he's only going to get better and better. He's still really, really young. And if Vegas can do anything that makes his life easier, he's only going to keep going. He'll be the best running back in the league in 3 years' time.
Okay, that's a strong statement, but I think there's good value there to back it up. And if like they spend so much on the center position, obviously given the record contract out,
Mm.
and if they continue to reinforce the offensive line, I think that's only going to benefit Genty. So he's only going to get better. He's actually not in my top 10. I had him just outside because there were some issues with his game that I saw, but I don't think there are things that he couldn't work on. And obviously, I just am of the opinion that you don't take a running back that early because of how short their careers tend to be. I prefer to look at guys in free agency or later in the draft, but no arguments there with how good he is. I think you're dead right. And I've actually got a Jets player here, Armand Membu, at 6. I know the Jets were poor, but I just think that he was really really good in the run game, solid, and he at times when he was on an island against some big players like T.J. Watt, he did a good job, and I think he went 7th. So moving up to 6th, I think shows that he did a pretty solid job. I know right tackle isn't as valuable as left tackle, but it's still a hard position to nail. So I think the Jets did a good job there. And I have him 6th right now.
Yeah, I dropped him out of my top 10, and it might have just been down to my hatred of the Jets in
Yeah.
general after what I just watched, but there was no way I was putting a single one of their players in this top 10, no matter how good or bad they were. I will say, like, he did start every single game last season, which says a whole lot for a rookie as well, considering that he's just come in. And it was a defense that didn't get a stop or didn't get an interception all season, so I couldn't really back him up. But I appreciate that one of us did have him in a top 10 there, so that's great.
Yeah, I was thinking that you would drop him out because of just how bad the Jets played and you didn't want to stomach
Yeah.
talking about him. But yeah,
Mm.
who have you got 7 then?
So I have dropped out Colson Loveland, but I wanted to keep a tight end in there. So I put in Tyler Warren because he was the one I wanted the Jets to take at 7 in the first place. Obviously we couldn't. He was gone by the time we came back around. But I said to you beforehand, I want a tight end who can catch and score touchdowns. And we've never really had one. We've never had a Travis Kelce. We've never had a Gronkowski. We all our tight ends seem to be able to do is block and tackle. I wanted someone that was a bit more like a receiver. And Carter Warren last season, 76 receptions, 817 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown on top of it as well. Yeah, the numbers aren't massive, but they're still better than any Jets wide receiver did. And I think he was one of the best wide receivers in the league last year, and he was only a rookie. His another fellow whose numbers are just going to shoot up again next year if he becomes more reliable, which he obviously was with his 76 catches. So I thought he was the best tight end in the class looking back on it now, and I think he's deserving of a top 10 pick, but I don't think you have him.
Okay, no, I don't have him in my top 10. I have him in my honorable mentions, all right, for sure.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't think I'll get on to Loveland because I do have him in my top 10, but not yet.
Ooh.
So I'll give my number 7, and that's Nick Emanwari, Super Bowl winner. He went 35, the steal of the draft, in my opinion. I've said so much about him over the playoffs and over the season. I love the way he plays. Literally, Mike McDonald coming out and saying, like, I've never had a player like this before, so I'm just kind of learning on the fly what I can do with him because he's that good and he can do so many things. I just would love to have had him at the Giants, and that's why I hope we either pick, if we don't take Sonny Styles or a wide receiver, if we do go with Caleb Downs, I think he's the closest thing to it in the draft. So I'd like to see that. But yeah, there's so much I've said about him already. Have him up from number 35 to number 7, Super Bowl winner. Just can do so many things, safety, nickel, whatever. He's an absolute animal.
Yeah, so he's in at number 10 for me as well.
Okay, sweet.
Everything you've said just makes complete sense, and he's exactly why he's there for me as well. I just like the fact he's a Super Bowl winner on a team that was so unfancy going into the season, and he played such a big part for him as well. I think he is definitely deserving of being a top 10, and as you said, he was definitely the steal of the draft as well.
Yeah. Did you say he's your number 10 or
Number 10, yeah.
number 10? Okay, so
Yeah, so number 8 for me is Travis Hunter. So he's dropped from 2 to 8, and while he wasn't superb by any stretch of the imagination, I still think what he can offer and might still offer, it was still definitely worthy of being taken as a top 10 pick. I think he is going to have to nail down one of the two positions and not jump over and back like he tried to do last year. But I think once he does that, I think he will be really, really solid. 15 tackles, 3 pass deflection, as well as 28 receptions and a touchdown last year. they're not anything that jump off the page at you, but I just think the talent that is there is so obvious. And if I was going back again, I would definitely still be taking him in the top 10 for any team.
Okay. I don't have him in the top 10 just because I think that there was better wide receivers in the draft, and he is now going to
Mm.
be a full-time wide receiver. They've announced that he's going to
Oh, have they?
play on that side of the ball
Okay.
next season. So I just think that to move up and give up next year's first rounder as the Jags did last year for somebody now that is only going to play one side of the ball, the reason you moved up is because you wanted to do both. And now it was found out that he couldn't. He got injured. They look better without him. Now he's a brilliant player, great talent. But I just went with guys who played more minutes and showed a little bit more at this level. So I've got Swessinger at 8, as I already mentioned. So I already kind of had my bit of few points about him. Who did you have at 8? Did we cover it yet?
Yeah, Travis Hunter was my ace.
Oh yeah, sorry. So we're on to 9 now, and I had
Yeah.
Macmillan, which I've already gone through. So what did you have there at that point?
I have my next wide receiver, and I have Igbuka in here. So I know he's another man who went down with injuries a bit, but I just thought he was unbelievable every time I watched him. He made the Bucks really enjoyable to watch. Himself and Baker had a really good understanding. Six touchdown receptions, 938 yards from 63 receptions. I think those numbers kind of speak for themselves as well. He missed a few games with a hamstring injury too, so he would definitely have topped that 1,000 yards if he played every game. I think this lad's going to be a star. Plain and simple, I really do.
Yeah, I have him just outside as well. He's the guy I spoke about earlier. When I said somebody who fell off towards the end instead of getting better.
Mm,
He went down with the ship when the Bucks fell apart.
went down, yeah.
So that might be why. Since they played poorly, that then resulted in him playing poorly too. But the flashes he showed early in the season, if we were just going off the first half, I could have him in the top 5 because he was that good.
Mm,
But the fall off was there, and that's why I have Macmillan at 9. You've already said your 10 was Eamon Wari, so the
mm,
last one I've got to say then is Colston Loveland. I'm having him staying at 10. If you look at the back half of the season, he's another guy who improved as the season went on, and he was immense in the playoffs too. He had the second most yards of any tight end after November. So when the season got to crunch time, only Trey McBride had more than him, with 597 in that period. I think while he doesn't do some of the things that Warren can do in terms of his blocking ability, he's an unbelievable playmaker. His pace at his size is absolutely crazy.
yeah,
And I know it's a very close one, and you said that Warren was probably the best in the draft. I'm of the opinion that the Bears nailed it and that Loveland is slightly better with a little bit more offensive upside, but I think Warren can do more for you. He could do everything, whereas Loveland is a bit flashier. So I think it'll be a nice battle going forward, I think, between the two of them to see who was the best in this draft because they were both really good. And we've also got Harold Fannin in this draft who was super for the Browns. So interesting going forward. You mentioned Egbuka, Warren. Those guys were both in my honorable mentions, and so were Xavier Watts, who was very, very good at safety throughout the season. I think the Falcons got a real good deal there. They got a steal on him. Sorry, not the Falcons. Why am I blanking on who picked him? Let me look very quickly.
who'd you
Yeah, it
say?
was the Falcons. Why did I doubt myself there?
Yeah,
And then Tyler Booker and Gray Zabel were good value picks, I think, in the interior offensive line too.
yeah. So we kind of went through all mine really. I still think Will Campbell had a good season despite what he showed in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
It was just kind of based on how his playoffs went, is why he dropped out of my top 10, but I don't think he was a bad pick. I wouldn't hate it if I knew going back in time and they still picked him there, then I still wouldn't hate it because I think he does have a big upside. Outside of that, we have kind of mentioned all of them really. Mason Graham, I think you just mentioned him there. Kelvin Banks was in your top 10. Loveland was in your top 10. So yeah, I think it was actually a better class when I was looking back over to find the top 10 than I had actually thought it was, just because of how mad the season was in general. But yeah, it was a good class, and hopefully this class is just as good. I just want to have a quick word on tight ends before we do move on, because you mentioned three there. When you put those three with Trey McBride and Brock Bowers, the tight end position is really going to be, it's going to be a fight for who's going to be the best over the next
mm,
5 to 10 years, because all these lads are maybe Actually, maybe McBride might be 28 now, so maybe in the next 5 years he was going to come out on top in the battle of them because if McBride got the touchdowns he deserves, he'd be outscoring every wide receiver in the league every single season. The amount of receptions he gets is absolutely insane. And Brock Bowers just looks like a monster as well. To put in with these three lads coming into year two, the tight end position is becoming more and more important in the attacking game as well as the blocking game. It's kind of why I really wanted the Jets this year to go and take someone like a Warren or a Loveland that could play the ball as well because it makes such a difference when you have the big bodied option as well that can just bowl people down and run over them. Makes such a difference.
Yeah, I actually think that it's a good point. I think the tight end position is coming more and more valuable with the way as well that teams are using two and even three at a time on the field, like with the Rams. They did a lot of that. And I do think that even if we could see more from Kyle Pitts that we haven't seen before. He
Yeah,
looks like he's improving, and then Sam Laporta with the Lions is impressive. And I do think that Isaiah Likely will make a jump with the Giants because he'll be more of a number one option, and he could be even the Giants' second option behind Neighbors, because of the way he'll line up. So, yeah, it's an interesting tight end group we have in the league right now. It's going to be a lot of
yeah.
lads vying for that number one spot. Um, so yeah, let's move on then to Gone Chance. Last week, obviously, you weren't here, but you mailed in your picks. It
And
was
I
a
got
really
nothing.
bad week once again. Both of us 0-3,
Oh,
no results correct. I had the Hawks to beat the Celtics on Friday night. That did not come off. They played them again on Monday and then they beat them. Go figure. I had the Hornets to beat the Celtics, did not come off either. So the point here is don't go against the Celtics. You also had that one, didn't come off.
yeah,
I had the Pelicans to beat the Raptors, no good. You had the Jazz to beat the Suns, didn't work out, and the Bucks to beat the Clippers, which didn't work out either. So I'm still 3 points ahead, 28-25. Moving into another week. Let's hear your picks. What have you got for us?
yeah. The NBA is just started to let me down because at the start of the season, every underdog story I went for was working out, and now I don't think we've had an underdog win that we've backed in. I'd say 6 weeks now at this stage. We just can't get the NBA nailed down. Unfortunately, I've had no choice this week but to put in two NBA again. I've
Hmm.
gone with Liverpool to beat City, as I said in when we were talking about the FA Cup. Just it's blind love or whatever you want to call it. But Liverpool 3-1, City are 8-11. I'm just backing Liverpool to hopefully win it in 90 minutes. And going with the Nuggets to beat the Spurs. Um, these are still two really, really good teams. The Spurs are on an outrageous run. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They've been 9-1 in their last 10 for the last 3 weeks. So they're only losing games very, very sporadically. But if the Nuggets can just get a head of steam going here, they're 48-25. Nuggets are 57-18. The Nuggets are definitely capable of beating this Spurs team. And then down towards the bottom of the table, I've tried to pick two that were literally within five, and both were rubbish. I've gone with the Grizzlies, who are 5-25, to beat the Bucks, who are 30-45. Um, there's no thinking behind it. I just went for two teams at the bottom. I really need a point. Hopefully, the Grizzlies are tanking less than the Bucks are tanking.
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies one is a good shout. I'm gonna go. I had a couple of things in mind here for my last pick because I thought we might overlap. So I'm actually going to go. I'll start with my first one, which you didn't have, which is the Sixers to beat the Timberwolves. So the Sixers are 41-34, and the Timberwolves are 46-29. So there's exactly 5 games between them. It's Friday night at midnight. I think Jaden McDaniels looks questionable. The Sixers are at home and they need to win a few more games to move forward, as we might touch on in a few minutes. But yeah, I'm going with that first of all. I also do have the Nuggets to beat the Spurs. That's at 8 p.m. on Saturday, so it'll be a great game at a great time, Irish time. 8-2 run for the Nuggets, and like you said, the Spurs are like 9-1 a lot recently in their last 10, but one of the recent losses was to the Nuggets a short while back. So let's see if they can do it again. Last up, I had two options. I'm gonna go with the Hornets to beat the Timberwolves because I did have Liverpool to beat City down, but I don't want us to have two of the same picks. I wanted to have another option because I thought that might happen. So Hornets are 40-36, Timberwolves 46-29, so 6 games between them at midnight on Sunday. So I'm having the Timberwolves in here twice. same logic as last week, trying to get the Celtics done twice. So hopefully it doesn't come back to bite me again. But those are our picks for this weekend. But while on the topic of the NBA, we're going to switch over and come back to something almost that we talked about recently, and that was KD and his Twitter burner stuff. But look at it in a different way, because I looked at the date we released that episode, and since that date, the Rockets are 12-9.
Yeah.
So they've had losses to the Knicks, Heat, Warriors, Spurs, Nuggets, Lakers twice, the Bulls, and Timberwolves. I think out of all those, the Warriors have been poor lately. The Heat have been poor lately. The Bulls have been poor lately. But the others are all against really good teams, and that's the troubling thing, because you need to start beating big teams, and it seems like the Rockets couldn't do it all season, but even more so in the recent weeks. So you kind of posed the question: has this KD thing been really lingering in the background and hanging over this team, and is that why they're playing badly?
I think it is. And I think it's mad that nothing has come out about it since. It hasn't been said, oh yeah, it was him, or oh no, it wasn't him. So it most definitely was him. And there's definitely there's locker room talk about it. There has to be, because what he said about Jabari Smith, what he was saying about Alpha and Shingun. There's no, like, these lads aren't playing at the peak of their powers at the moment, any of them. As you said, 12-9. Their overtime losses all season have been something that actually needs to be studied, because I think they've won one game in overtime all season, and that just keeps going. And that's not something you can do going into the playoffs. Like they, when I was looking this up, I was some fella on ESPN were saying they were solid but not dominant, and I don't even think they've been solid, to be honest. I think 12-9 isn't really that great a record. Went out and lost to the Lakers back to back, and I know the Lakers are on a good run of form now, but that kind of felt like the kick on the Lakers were looking to go on the run they're on now. If the Rockets had won those games, maybe it would be them that is as again on a 9-1 run, like the whole league. Sorry, the whole side of the West seems to be, but everything has dropped down. Their offensive rank is gone down to 15th since the All Star break. They were up in the top five before us. 112 points per game. They're now bottom half the league in that since the All Star break. They're still getting the assists somehow. They had 35 wins recently, but their efficiency is just so inconsistent. 93 points against Denver, 128 points in another game. Like, none of this makes any sense to me, how it's just gone so down the toilet in the last month and a bit. And the only thing that comes back to me is the fact that this KDE thing doesn't seem to have been sorted on the outside, and maybe it is sorted inside, but they're not playing like a team. And Madoka, I think, is a lot to answer for as well, because every time Reed Shepherd's on the court, he plays really well. Then he gets dropped out for absolutely no reason, and they go back to playing really poorly again. And maybe it's the coach, maybe it's KD, but it all just seems too convenient with the timing of the KD stuff coming out and this all going asunder, just coming up to the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the point about looking at Reed Shepherd coming in and out is a massive one as well. I know this isn't exactly related to the KD thing, but I think you do make a good point that the correlation is there. But Reed Shepherd should be playing more minutes, like it's clear to
Yeah,
see. And I thought that Udoka had gotten over the fact that he's not very good on defense after the All Star break and would continue to play him more, but it seems like that's fallen to the wayside as well. And I brought it up last week with Michael. Like, Tari Eason was supposed to be the 3 point king for the team, and then
yeah,
over March, I think he made like 7 3 pointers, and he made like 3 3 pointers, and he had like 7 games with none. So it's
yeah,
like, how is he getting the minutes consistently when he's completely freezing cold, and then Shepard isn't getting as many minutes as he should get? I think to only score what you said, 93 against the Nuggets, is dumbfounding, because the Nuggets cannot defend at all.
yeah,
So that's ridiculous. I just think losing to big teams all the time, and losing to the Lakers as well, because look, if you look at it right now, the Rockets have the exact same record as the Timberwolves. And if they finish in the sixth seed, they'll play the Lakers. If they move up to the fifth, they'll play the Nuggets. I think they'd be better off losing and staying in the sixth. Because if they move up, I think the Nuggets will just steamroll them on offense. Whereas if they play against the Lakers, I would actually fancy their chances more. But then in the prelude, in the regular season, you see the Lakers just whooping them twice in a row.
yeah.
So like, none of this would instill confidence in you. I think they should have split those games and had one win each. if the Rockets really were to take things seriously and be like, we need to at least win one, but they couldn't muster it. And I just don't know. This KD thing maybe is the thing that's hovering over the whole team, and I don't know
Yeah.
what's going to happen next season if that's the case.
Yeah, if you look at them, so since the Spurs absolutely blasted them, 145, 120, they went on then they beat the Raptors. Well done. They then scored 93 against the Nuggets in the game after 129-93, beat the Pelicans by 2 points, and it was really, really tight. It was a lot, literally a bounce of a ball was the reason we won that game. Then the back-to-back games, the Lakers put 92 up in the first game, lose 192, then led up 124 and only score 116. Beat the Hawks. Okay, we kept them to 95 points. Fair play. 123 points against the Heat and a 1 point win. Again, bounce of a ball. Then lose to the Bulls. Like, how are you losing to the Bulls? And then going out and losing to the Timberwolves in overtime. There's no point. Like the last two are the Grizzlies and the Pelicans. They're games you have to be winning if you're anyway serious. But the problem is that they're 46 wins. The Suns have 42 wins. If the Rockets keep going with the way they're going, they could very easily drop into that play-in. And after all the hype all season, everyone's saying they're a top three seed or a top four seed. If they end up in the play-in, who'd be surprised they went out and lost the play-in because their mentality seems so weak that in a one-off game they could very easily go out and freeze on the spot and their player front is over before it even begins. And at that stage, then what are you doing with KD? You've given up these first-round picks to bring him in. Yes, he's been really good by himself, but the team haven't seemed to really gel with him at all. He's the one putting up the 40 points every week. Everyone else is putting up 20s. Like he doesn't really seem to be playing for the team. And especially now since this burner thing has come out, I've been kind of focused more on him and just seeing that he does throw his hands up here and there when he doesn't get the ball when someone passes it to him and Thompson said to him. And it's just you're 38 or 39 years old, and it's the kind of the same line I use when we talked about the burner thing as well. But he's meant to be in there to help these younger lads grow and win a championship next year or the year after. But instead, it's like, no, this is my team, this is my town, this is my city, blah, blah, blah. And just all he wants to do is put up shots. He's terrible taking the last shot in the game. I don't know if it's been a whole career thing, but at the Rockets in particular, like he scored one with the last shot of the game, and it was when we were up by 10 to win by 12. Every time he's taken one to win by one or win by three, he misses it and just gives the ball back. And he's driven me insane all season, but especially since All Star break now, he's just been really, really getting on my nerves. And if we drop out of the top six, then I don't think we would win in the playoffs. Sorry, my voice is going to go.
You're okay. Still recovering after the Prague trip, but I'll pick up here now that you had to drop for a second. I think that looking at him in the clutch is when he should be stepping up. You're 100% right. And then, like you mentioned, the Rockets' record in overtime is 1-7. That's where he should be there and standing up to be counted. He's been in these moments so much. He's having great games, but again, he can't be letting down his teammates in big moments when they have the ball throwing his hands up and then when he has the ball missing shots. Like that Bulls game was the epitome of the Rockets season because they were down so big early when they shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
They clawed their whole way back. They should have won the game, and then Buzelis just puts KD in a body bag at the end. Like literally puts shots over him, gets in his head. KD pushes off, offensive foul, a very clear offensive foul. Ime loses his head, gets ejected. Like that was all down to KD not being able to handle Buzelis, who is a great player, but he's not on KD's level. So these things all are questionable. I think you're probably in a lucky position that the Suns are like five or so games back, and we've only like six or
Yeah.
seven games left. So I think it should be fine. But yeah, if you were in the play-in, anything can happen at that point. But do you have anything else on the Rockets before we look at the play-in on the other side?
It's just been a year where, like, Liverpool's season has gone to complete dogs. Obviously, the Jets season was complete dogs. I was kind of pinning my hopes of some happiness on the Rockets this year, and that's probably what's annoying me on top of it as well, because I was so confident coming into the season. I obviously didn't think we were going to win the division or anything like that, but I really expected a deep playoff run. And now it all just seems to be it's going to be a limp first round exit again at the hands of the Lakers or whoever else they face up against because they just seem so weak mentally, and they're a really tough watch at the moment. I just hope they can turn it around in the next couple of weeks and just get on some sort of form going into the playoffs because with the way the top three are playing, like going into playoffs against any of them, they're so confident going into this playoff run now. The Lakers, the Spurs, and the Thunder. The Rockets should be up there with them. The Rockets should be going on these 9-1, 10 game, 11 game winning runs. And they really just haven't done it all season, bar maybe once. And then they went and lost to the Jazz or something after beating them the week before. It's just, it's the way the season has gone. And I just really need them to just pull something out and just get something going.
Well, fingers crossed for you that they turn things around and the playoff run is a good one. But yeah, a lot of what we pointed out doesn't point towards that being the case. But things change in the playoffs, so let's see. Let's quickly run through the East play-in because we've been going for a while here. But we did want to touch on this before it gets to the point where we know who's going to be there. Um, if you look from the 5 seed down, we've got the Hawks at 43 and 33, Raptors 42 and 33, so a half game back. Sixers 41 and 34, a game behind them. The Magic 40 and 35, a game behind the Sixers, and then the Heat and the Hornets both 40 and 36, a half game behind the Magic. So right now the Magic are falling like a stone. They have the fourth hardest strength of schedule left in the East, so I think that they're a goner at this point. For the play-in, I mean, I think they're just going to fall
Yeah.
down. They could end up in the 10th spot. I think the Heat, they're inconsistent. They beat the Sixers the other night. I think the Sixers could learn a few lessons from the way they spread their minutes in that game. But they should have never won that. They've been poor around that. So I think ninth is where they'll stay. And then I think the real battle is between the Hornets, Sixers, Raptors, and Hawks to get that 5 and 6 spot. If you look, the Hawks have the second hardest strength of schedule in the East. They still have to play the Knicks once, twice against the Cavs, the Heat. And then the Hornets have the hardest strength of schedule in the East and the second hardest in the whole league. They've got the Pistons, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Timberwolves, and the Suns. So then you're looking at where are the Raptors? Well, they've got one of the easiest schedules left in the league, and the Sixers are around the midpoint with a really tough run coming against the Timberwolves, Pistons, Rockets, and Spurs. So I don't know. Things are looking really positive for the Raptors, but then again, I don't trust them at all. I don't trust that they're going to handle business every single week. So, what way do you have this lining up from five down?
You've kind of put it all into a very, very good perspective there. So fair play. Um, I have the Raptors as the only one who dropped down here, and the Sixers take that sixth spot. Because of what you said, the Raptors cannot be trusted to stand on business and go out there and win the games that get them that sixth spot. Whereas the Sixers, now that the lads are coming back, I think they have a far better chance of winning the games they need to win. They're only a game back from the Raptors, so it's really not that much to make up. Obviously, it's only one game to make up, so it's quite easy to make up if the Raptors do what we think they're going to do. Then I have the Raptors in seventh, the Heat in eighth, the Magic in ninth, and the Hornets to stay in tenth because I just think they were in my power rankings at one stage, but I think their strength of schedule is just so difficult for them that I think they're just happy to be there at this point. They can't drop out of it. So if they go 2-5 to finish out their playing run, I don't think they'll be too upset. And I think they actually might start resting lads to win this playing because I do kind of fancy them when they get there.
Okay, yeah, I think I like them in the play-in too, and I actually think the Hawks are an interesting case too because they have the second hardest strength of schedule in the East. So like, look, they're not a million miles ahead, but again, they've been really good recently. So I think for me, I'm gonna have the Hawks staying with the fifth spot like you. I also have
Yeah.
the Sixers jumping up because I just think with everyone coming back, they're gonna get a nice run going. And I could see them taking down some teams. Sorry to say, I do think that they could beat the Rockets, they could beat the Timberwolves, and they could beat the Pistons. I don't think they could beat the Spurs, to be honest. But the others, I
No.
could see it happening. And then the Raptors do have to play the Celtics, the Knicks, and the Heat twice, and the Heat might turn it up a bit. So I am going with the same as you in that point. As we move down, then I've got the Hornets into eighth. I know they've got really tough games, but they're literally on the same wins as the Magic and the Heat, and I just think those two are not trustworthy. So then I've got the Heat staying in ninth and the Magic falling to 10th. The Magic have some tough games. I think if they played all the tanking teams, they'd still fall down because they're just useless. I cannot believe how bad they've been this season.
Yeah, there's like we say it at this kind of stage of every season that this side is so much weaker than the other sides, And it's teams like the Magic that is what drags this side down because they should be good. They should be going out there getting the 45 or 50 wins. And like they're not, they're just, they've never really done it. And despite all the promise they have, they always seem to end up in this position where they're scraping for a playoff or falling into a play-in. When you look at the other side, you have the three boys atop again. I'm probably not going to get sick of talking about them. I think they're the three best teams in basketball at the moment, as well as the Pistons. But I just think, yeah, I just don't think the Magic are trustworthy. The Heat aren't trustworthy. It's mad to say that if the Raptors fell in here, that the Hornets are the most trustworthy of them. And
Hmm.
it's only the fact that the Hornets had such a poor start to the season is the reason that they're kind of just holding on to a playing spot at the moment. They went on some run there. They were the opposite to the Rockets. They went on a serious run coming into the All Star break and kind of continue this for a small bit after before kind of returning to mean. But I'd be backing them to get out of this play and then into the playoff if we're going to jump ahead to that.
Yeah, I do think so. I have them as the best team in the play-in, and I also
Yeah,
think that if they get that 7-8 matchup, I honestly think it would be better suited to them to play the 9-10 first, the way you have it, because
yeah,
then they'd play the loser and they'd win it, and they'd get the Pistons, who they're not the full article. I just think if they played whoever plays the Celtics in the first round is completely cooked.
he's
Me
getting
and
knocked
Michael
out.
touched on that last week, and I just think if you end up with the 7 seed, if you were playing the 7-8 matchup, I would honestly rather throw it and try out against the Pistons than the Celtics because they are so strong.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think the Hornets get out, and then looking at the other teams, I just think there's no hope for the Magic. So really, it's can the Heat get out, and they seem to do it every single time. So I would
yeah.
probably trust them over the Raptors at this point. Even though the Raptors have been good, I just think they're good against bad teams, and when they play important games, they don't do it.
Yeah, the Heat are just one of those teams. It was the Bulls last year who were the team that everyone thought was just going to be a constant playing team, and I think it is now the Heat are just going to be the constant playing team over and over again. They'll just do enough to scrape into the top 10. I do think they'll be in the play-in final if that's what they call it. I don't actually know what they call it, but I think they will lose to this Hornets team.
Okay,
Sorry.
sweet. Yeah, and what other team do you think is going to get out? So Hornets, and between Raptors and if you think the Heat lose to the Hornets, first of all,
Sorry. No,
you've
sorry.
got
I think the Hornets and the Heat get out of it. I think the Raptors and the Magic go down.
okay, yeah.
Sorry. So
So
I have the Magic to beat the Raptors, the Hornets to beat the Heat, and then the Hornets to beat the Raptors.
right, okay,
I, I,
okay,
I think I've completely confused it, but I did that's what I've written down here anyway. So
okay. So yeah, it's kind of a messy situation the way it's run, but it's like 7 versus 8, 9 versus 10. 7 gets through as the 7 seed. Whoever wins that 7-8 matchup, and then whoever wins the 9-10 plays the loser. So I've got it as the Hornets beating the Raptors, getting the 7 seed, and then the Raptors play the Heat, who have beaten the Magic, and then the Heat beat them and get the 8 seed.
Sarah, yes, I have the way I did it. I should have had the Hornets are playing the Magics, and the Heat are playing the Raptors. I have the Heat to beat the Raptors in the 7-8, and I
Yeah,
have the Hornets to beat the Magic in the 9-10, and then I have the Hornets beating the Heat to get in as well as the Heat.
to beat the Raptors,
Hornets,
and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I'm not myself.
we've got the same lineup, just different order.
Different
And I
ways of
think the
getting there.
Hornets would actually prefer that, to be honest, as we already touched on. But we'll move on from that confusion of the
Yeah,
play in which, yeah, at this point, like I don't know, is there a point in it? Is there not? Some people like it, some people don't. It's just leave it be, I think, at this point. But we'll wrap up quickly with the power rankings. So last week I had the Thunder, the Man City, the San Antonio Spurs, Arsenal, United, and the Pistons. So I've updated that. The Thunder are still top, 60 wins already, 9-1 in their last 10. The Spurs are likely to reach 60 wins soon. They're also 9-1 in their last 10, so I've got them up to second. City moved down to third. Obviously, they haven't played, but I just think the Spurs have been so good they move up. The Nuggets are in then for me. I know the Lakers have been great, but I think Nuggets 6 in a row. They're only behind the Spurs in terms of recent runs of wins, and then they're 8-2 in their last 10, having recently beat the Spurs. And then 5 and 6 are United and Arsenal still because they haven't played since we last did it, so that stays the way it is.
Yeah, so I have Thunder top last week, City, Spurs, Lakers, United, and Arsenal. I've actually left it the exact same. So I didn't see a single thing outside of Ireland matches last week, so I couldn't judge any one of these. There was obviously no Premier League football, so none of the three were going to drop out. And the three NBA teams, they're all still 9-1 in their last 10. So I just I felt avoid confusion after causing a lot of confusion there, and I've just left the six the same. So it's still Thunder City, Spurs, Lakers, United, and Arsenal is my six again.
Nice one. Sounds good. Leave it the way it is. Why not leave it like that? Especially when, like you've said, like you didn't get to really take in too much NBA action. So I think the only reason I changed mine is just because the Spurs have been so good. I probably should have had
Hmm.
them up there, and then the Nuggets come in. But look, not too many changes really between the two of us. I think a lot of the teams are solidified at this point as to who's good,
Yeah,
and we'll see how the Premier League shakes out then in the next few weeks. But yeah, that's it. A wrap on another episode. We've gone a long time, considering that you're not up to it the best. You're under the weather after your travels and stuff. So it's like
again.
the Michael Jordan flu game. Perform your
Yeah.
best when you're unwell. Any closing thoughts?
Just thanks for listening. Thanks for listening last week as well when there was James was slumming it on his own again. He had to bring Michael in to get a bit of help, and the two of them absolutely smashed it again. There's something about the two lads when you're talking about basketball that I don't even touch the surface of their level of knowledge on most times. So I thought it was a really good episode last week. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to that one. And obviously get to the end of this one. Road to 100,000, still going. Ireland going to win the World Cup in 2030, and we'll still be going then, and we'll be back next week.
Welcome back to another episode of Who's Got the Ball with Shane and James.